Good morning, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving to all of my American grinders out there. It's time for some NFL pre-lock. We got 3 games today. Even though it's not Thanksgiving for me here in Canada, I do love some American Thanksgiving because I just get to hang out and watch football all day long. Helping me break it down, I got my guy Shiver Me Timbo, TastefulTides, Tim Buell. How you doing, Tim?
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I've actually already consumed half of a pecan pie, so I am really ready to go. I'm really ready to go here. I wish I was kidding. I'm not kidding. So I'm really ready to break down the slate with you guys.
Tim, this is awesome. I think we started this show in a better way. Tim's already eaten half a pie. Tim, I got an apple pie with my name on it, so I understand, brother. Trust me. I understand.
Yeah, I also have an apple pie with my name on it. I'm not done with the pie, just for the record. So
Tim,
yeah,
listen, we're gonna be friends for life. I knew I love Tim, but that's just Tim, this is freaking awesome.
I can feel myself sweating, like my sugar level is so high. It's kind of, but I mean I'm in top form for this slate.
We are in a totally different boat because I built all my lineups last night and then set my alarm for about a half hour ago and woke up about a half hour ago. I did all my research last night and then I slept in as long as I could today. I haven't even eaten anything yet. Will Priester, the Chief, how you doing? How much pie have you had so far? What is the plan for food consumption throughout the rest of the day?
So I haven't had any pie yet, but like I told Tim, there's literally apple pie downstairs with my name on it. So I got that. We had a Friendsgiving. My son had a Friendsgiving for a few friends at our house. By a few, it was like 30 plus. Yeah, a few. So we had that on Tuesday, like evening, start at, I don't know, around 7 or something like that. And so we had so much food from that. Tim, we've got brownies, chewies, cookies, and I know I'm just naming a bunch of desserts, but you know, they had buffalo chicken dip. And if you're from the South like me, there's this a dish called red rice. And basically in red rice, you've got it's like a tomato-based, you've got like sausage and bacon. You can put shrimp in it, chicken, whatever. Like it's called red. Some, you know, if you're from the low country here in South, in like the lower Southeast, Georgia, South Carolina, you know what red rice is. We had Kenyan rice. One of his classmates is from Kenya. Kenyan rice, Mexican rice, chicken, turkey, ham. We had all this on a Tuesday, Tim. Mac and cheese. I mean, this was all on Tuesday. And then today we're going to, you know, our family's house. Now I've got HBO training saying stay away from that stuff, Chief. So here's what I did, HBO. I eat in moderation, so I eat pretty clean. Like I don't eat a whole lot of fried, a whole lot of fast food. You know, I ate up, you know, a brownie or two, but I have been eating pretty clean. But Tim, back to this. This apple pie has got my name on it. So today is my cheat day. I'm going all in.
You guys are making me hungry. I haven't eaten anything yet today, but last night I ordered some pizza and it gave me heartburn all night long, and so it's in the fridge right now, but I'm a little scared to go back to it in the GPP because I got burned last time. Tim, what do you got on the go tonight for Thanksgiving?
What do I got for on our menu?
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, just sweet potato pie. Obvious, and then we make some kind of like a special stuffing with chestnuts and sausage in it, which I think is fantastic. It's kind of a different way to go about a traditional dish. And then just the traditional stuff, you know, like corn, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes. And I think that's about it, really. But it's a pretty big feast they got going on downstairs right now.
All right, we've heard about the food. Time to hear about the football. We'll go game by game and talk about the 3 games on the slate. Then we'll go not a full position by position breakdown because we'll already have covered it throughout most of the game by game stuff, but we'll recap our favorite plays. And sorry, my dog just came down here. He's excited to see me, trying to say hello. But we'll go game by game first, and then we'll recap our favorite positional plays. Then we'll get some QQs. You got some questions about food. You got some questions about football. Get your questions in. I'll go to the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat, and then I'll also look at the YouTube chat as well. So if you're watching us on YouTube, smash that like button. Help us battle the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe. Hit the notification bell. It's a free show on Thanksgiving, people. We're here on Thanksgiving. It is free. All we ask you to do is hit that like button for us because it does do wonders with the algorithm to help us out. So smash that like button. Tim, I'll throw it to you first. We got 3 games on the slate. Which one do you think is going to be your favorite?
I
favorite target for DFS.
Yeah, so I think actually, I mean, it's kind of strange, but I think the very first game on the entire slate is probably the most important game on the slate in cash games and in large field GPPs, and how you build around this game is going to be super important, and also the spots that you leave left for potential late swap, or you don't even bother with that and you just overstack this game, which is another way I think that you can play this game. So I think this Bears Lions game is very, very important. I'll just start right off with Caleb Williams. He should be your cash game quarterback today. It's obviously he should be playing in a trailing game script. The Lions really invite you to throw the ball against them. So I think Caleb Williams plus one of his receivers lately, ever since the coaching change, it's been Keenan Allen. And I think Keenan Allen is the one that the optimizers are really liking. And Keenan Allen is also simming quite well. So Caleb Williams and Keenan Allen is going to be like your chalky QB wide receiver single stack that you probably should be playing in cash games. I would try to get a little bit different than that in single entry and larger field GPPs. But Williams to Allen is probably your cash game combo. I'm interested to hear what your guys' take is. I don't really have any interest in DeAndre Swift today. I know that it's a small slate. I know it's, he could potentially be a tournament winner, but I don't really want to attack the Lions on the ground, especially in this kind of game, game script. So I'm out on the Chicago rushing attack. I do have a little bit of interest in the other Bears wide receivers, whether or not you want to do a Caleb double with Rome or DJ Moore. I also think Cole Kmet's pretty interesting for GPPs as well. And then I've heard a lot of talk about playing Gibbs and Montgomery together in any kind of format, really. And I really don't hate that. The Lions have a 28.5 implied team total. They should control this game pretty easily. So I think getting to at least one of these guys, it's probably Gibbs in cash games, but I would get to one of these guys definitely. And then the wide receiver core is kind of tricky for Detroit. Obviously, you want a Monra, but the Bears actually do a pretty good job of, holding the top wide receivers in check. So I think he's fine. I don't know if I want to pay 8K for him in cash. I might want to go somewhere else for my top wide receiver in cash games. We'll talk about that. And then obviously Jameson Williams is a really strong large field GPP play.
So I'm taking a few stands today, and I'm going to be very underweight on Amon-Ra St. Brown and even more underweight on Caleb Williams. I built 150 lineups in the Million Maker today. I have, I think, 5 teams with Caleb Williams on it. I'm going to be very, very under the field for him. I just did a few full stacks. Will, how about you? First things first, for tournaments, what are you doing with the Caleb Williams chalk? You are muted.
Yeah, I know. I didn't say. I said, and I didn't say anything. So I had this delayed sound, but that wasn't actually a word. But anyway, so in my single entry team, I'm not playing Caleb Williams. For my 150 build, I probably will get to some, just because, honestly, and let me just say, I think I'll probably get to a little bit of all of these quarterbacks in a 150 build. I usually take massive stands, but that's usually in a much larger slate. And it's because I think I could see a route where any of these quarterbacks could somewhat overperform, if that makes any sense. What I will try to do is take some stands against the field today. So in terms of Caleb Williams, I'm going to be under the field in mass multi-entry, but I'm not going to play him in single entry or 3-entry max, if that makes any sense. Hopefully everybody gets what I'm doing there.
Yes, sir. What about these position players? Who do you like at running back and receiver?
So at running back, I'm going back to Tyrone Tracy. I think somebody brought up the fact they asked, how could I not be on the G-Men this week? I'll be on him this week.
Specifically for Chicago, Detroit.
Thank you, because I was about to go all in there. I'm playing both of the Detroit running backs in mass multi-entry. I don't think you can, and hear what I'm saying, not what I'm not saying. I think you can predict when Detroit's going to kind of run away with the game or like really pile on the points. I don't think you can predict which one of these running backs is going to have the massive fantasy day. I think we all feel like Gibbs is better, but David Montgomery has tremendous goal line upside. And at 6,500, if he falls in the end zone twice like he did 2 weeks ago and rushes for 60 yards, well, that's almost 20 fantasy points. And that's a big deal on a small slate. 18 fantasy points from David Montgomery today is borderline tournament winning, because I don't see a whole – I mean, yeah, maybe A-Chain could get you there, or maybe Josh Jacobs, because they're going to get so much volume. But in terms of just straight up fantasy production, if David Montgomery gets 2 touchdowns, he's probably optimal. So I guess in terms of playing the tournament game, I think I'd take Montgomery over Gibbs for the possibilities. Clearly, we think Gibbs will be more involved overall. But even Gibbs hasn't seen the reception numbers this season that I think we expected, 5-6 catches a game. That's just not the case. So I think out of this game, my favorite running back is David Montgomery. And I actually have the X button on DeAndre Swift today. I'm not even going to play him in my mass multi-entry build. So hopefully everybody gets that.
Yeah, I have 0 DeAndre Swift in 150 lineups as well. So DeAndre Swift smash week incoming, but I'm actually playing more of the backup running back for Chicago in the Millie Maker than I am DeAndre Swift.
You're throwing in a little Roschon?
Throwing in a little Roschon, because speaking of if somebody gets just falls in for 1 or 2 touchdowns, Roschon Johnson at 4,500, 1% owned, probably will creep up to 2. He's getting all of the goal line work, not some of it, all of it. And we don't really expect Chicago to get down to the goal line all that often in this game, but I'm not really expecting them to be able to run over Detroit. I think maybe if they pass to the goal line, they could punch one in there. But the chat's fired up about it. It's Montgomery revenge. So that's another reason we might like David Montgomery a little bit better. Not only is it a run funnel, but it's revenge. They're the best running team in the league. It's arguable, I think, that Gibbs and Montgomery is the best running back tandem we've ever seen. Statistically, they are. They're the first teammates ever to score 10-plus touchdowns in a season as running backs in back-to-back years. Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Gibbs, and Montgomery already together in their career have the most 3-touchdown games, with each of them scoring a touchdown between 3 teammates of all time. They've barely been together yet. And so Gibbs and Montgomery are big priorities for me. I have at least one of them in every single lineup today. One of Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery, and some of my lineups I'm playing both. I have no DeAndre Swift, and I am playing some Roschon Johnson in tournaments. Anything on Laporta or Komet before we get to these next ones? I feel like these are guys that you can play in your stacks, but aren't really big priorities for me.
That's how I would assess it also. I mean, they're definitely fine in any kind of tournament format. I think they'll be fairly low owned. I mean, they will come some ownership, but I would not make them priorities in cash. But as part of stacks, I think they're fine.
One thing I would want to mention is the Lions are without some linebackers. Alex Anzalone's not there. I don't think that's going to really affect their run game much, but Anzalone is a guy who's really good in pass coverage, so maybe a small bump to Cole Kmet. Giants in Dallas. I know you're excited about this one, Chief. I will throw it to you first. We got a 3-point spread, maybe an ugly game for real life, but there's some fantasy goodness in this one. Rico Dowdle is the top point per dollar play on the slate and projections. He's looking like a cash game play. We'll let Tim handle the cash side of things, but what are you doing with Giants and Dallas one on the Pick Six show. Rich Rebar described it as a preseason game, because that's pretty much what this one is. It's could score 0 points, it could score 70 points, and we don't really know what's going to happen.
Well, I'm hoping Drew Lock helps to make this offense better. So I think I like this game a little bit more than most. I know I'm going to revisit, but I like the Giants last week and it just didn't come together. I am hoping Drew Lock makes this offense look a lot better. I think we felt like the Dallas offense was just going to come crashing down, and then in comes Cooper Rush just throwing for 300 yards every game, and maybe they found a way to move the ball. And if so, this game, one thing I will say about the first two games, both are in a dome. So this is pretty cool that we get weather-resistant games right out of the gate, back to back. I love both sides of this game, and I'm planning to have some shares here. I'm trying to decide, how much of some of these secondary pieces I'm going to get in these games. For the record, I do have Amon-Ra St. Brown on the lock button today, for what it's worth. I know that's probably a little bit different than most, but I've got the lock button on Amon-Ra my 150 build. So I'm getting creative with the Giants-Cowboys game for sure. But I do really like this game.
I am very overweight on these two quarterbacks. So Drew Lock and Cooper Rush, I have 30% of each of them. They're my two highest owned QBs on this slate. I love saving salary there and getting up to more of these expensive skill players, prioritizing. Basically, how I'm getting different today is I will be very underweight on Rico Dowdle, very underweight on Caleb Williams, and very overweight on Cooper Rush, Drew Lock, and the more expensive running backs. And so I'm saving salary at QB instead of running back today. Tim, how are you handling this game?
Yeah, this game is actually pretty tricky, I think, in any format that you're playing in, just because this game has a 37.5 point total. It's going to be a pretty ugly game, and there's quite a few position players that have coming in with really, really high ownership. I think that I'm out on Tracy in cash games. Obviously, in GPPs, he is a fine play. I think I'm a little bit bearish on him, though, especially when considering his large projected ownership. And then, do we believe in the blink neighbor squeaky wheel narrative? Can Drew Lock get him the ball? Can he pay off his price tag? I think he can, and I think you can play neighbors in cash games. I prefer CeeDee Lamb on the other side of this game for $200 more. I think the field will as well, but in cash games, I think CeeDee Lamb is going to be my most expensive wide receiver. I think he is probably, I almost like in single entry, just like fading Rico Dowdle and just loading up on Rush and Lamb.
Yeah.
That's
what I'm doing in single entry.
Yeah. I kind of like that. And really, you don't even have to play Rush. Like, just hope that CD gets a high volume of targets and goes for like 10, 101 or something like that. It's like, doesn't necessarily have to be like, you don't necessarily have to play Rush, but I would prioritize Lamb over neighbors. And then Dowdle's all about kind of your own risk tolerance, about what you want to do. I can completely see any side of this argument. He should get plenty of opportunities, and he's super, super cheap. So it's not going to take a lot for him to pay off this price tag. He is going to be mega chalk, though. And I think that you basically have to play him in cash games. But in other formats, you can make your own decisions about that. It's a pretty awesome spot, though. You cannot deny this spot against this Giants front seven. So I currently do have Dowdle in my primary team, but I'm still making final adjustments. I haven't made my final decision on him yet, but you are 100% playing him in cash games if you're playing cash today.
Yeah, you nailed it. More than 50% owned. He's going to be the chalkiest player on the slate. If you're choosing to go to just not play Dowdle and Caleb Williams, you're going to be very different in the field just on that one thing alone. He's going to get 20 touches against the worst run defense in the league, and he's really cheap. So fade at your own risk. But I personally am going to be underweight on Dowdle today. I'll be underweight on Tracy too. That one scares me. He's very electric, but he's also had some fumble problems. We saw Devin Singletary get more touches Pardon me, I have the hiccups. We had Devin Singletary get more touches after Tracy fumbled last game. Don't know why. Giants don't want to win, and they should be wanting to let their young players play through their mistakes. But just in case they're like, oh, he fumbled, we can't play him anymore because he fumbled twice now. Then I do have a couple Singletary lineups just in case he gets the workhorse role. I'm stacking up a little bit of Wandale, a little bit of Slayton, a little bit of Neighbors, of course, and Theo Johnson with my Drew Lock teams. I do think this game has some really interesting cheap options. Kavonte Turpin, Theo Johnson. These are going to be guys that and even a little bit of Tolbert. These are guys I'm going to be playing at low ownership for nice and cheap in some of my lineups. Miami and Green Bay last game on the slate. Then we'll go position by position. Tim, we'll keep it with you here. Who are you prioritizing in the Miami and Green Bay game? Because for me, Achane is right there with Montgomery and Gibbs as my highest priorities on the slate.
Yeah, so maybe I'm being a little bit different. Well, I guess ownership says it is going to be more popular. I like Josh Jacobs the most. He's the guy that I'm prioritizing the most overall in this game is Jacobs. Achane is obviously completely fine. He's an amazing player. He's not too expensive or anything. So I mean, if people want to play Achane, then that's fine. But I prefer Jacobs in this spot. I think this Green Bay wide receiver situation is kind of tricky to figure out and know what to do exactly. I wouldn't play Watson in cash, but I think you can play Wicks or Reed. I'd pick maybe one of those two, but they're not priorities. I do like Tucker Kraft quite a bit in any format. And then this whole Tyreek, Jalen Waddle thing, Tua, 0-4 in the cold games, not a huge sample size, but everyone's like, oh, we can't win in cold weather. I don't think we really know that.
That to me is the most overblown thing I've seen.
Yeah,
one of the most overblown of the year. The sample size is small and also hasn't been bad.
Right, and he's right around the same ownership as Drew Lock and Cooper Rush. I know that he's more expensive, but it's he's so much better of a quarterback. So if you want to get to some Miami stacks, I think that's going to be a pretty different way to go about things. The only players that are going to be super chalky are Achane and Jonnu Smith, who I do like Smith in cash games if you have the money, and you should have the money on this slate pretty easily. So I think Jonnu Smith is a really fantastic play. But if you wanted to go to Tyreek and Waddle, like a Miami double, I don't think anyone's gonna be playing that today, or very, very few people. So I don't mind that at all for GPPs.
Yeah, I love this game for GPPs so much. 2 stacks with Tyreek. I'm getting a little Waddle. Jonnu Smith is my favorite tight end on the slate. Devon Achane is going to be my highest owned running back. Miami's defense has been surprisingly good against running backs. So I have the Achane and both Detroit running backs above Josh Jacobs today. I'm also going to have one Green Bay receiver in every lineup, at least, even if I'm not playing Jordan Love. I love Christian Watson. I will love Dontavion Wicks, and I'm even taking some shots on Heath and Bo Melton all the way down at the bottom. Will, how about you? Who do you like in this Green Bay and Miami game?
So I think my favorite play in this game is Josh Jacobs. I got to agree with Tim here. And I'll just go ahead and give out that prop right there. I took Jacobs more than 17.5 rushing attempts, hoping they just continue to give him the rock, and try to ride him to the finish line. So hopefully that materializes. But that's a prop that I'm heavily invested in today. Blitz likes it enough. I think the Blitz has a projected around 18 and some change. So only a gap of 1, but I'm hoping they down the stretch here they do like old school Zeke. They just feed him. So he's my favorite. I think on the other side of this game, I was wondering, was the Jonnu Smith target share going to be real or fake? And Tua comes back, and after a couple of games, it looks real. And the one thing we have to do is kind of make these adjustments quickly. So I'm hoping Jonnu Smith doesn't let us down. But in terms of him being 4,300 on DraftKings, if he's going to continue to get this many targets, it seems like, it's the right way for him to go. And I know Tyreek just hasn't gotten there, but at some point he's got to pop for a big game, right? Like at some point, isn't he taking a 60-yard touchdown to the house? So I'll have some Tyreek. I'm going to be underweight on A-Chain today for what it's worth.
So, like, in theory, the reason why we're not getting much Tyreek, much Waddle in comparison to how much we used to is McDaniel's taking it upon himself to protect Tua, right? They're throwing it faster than anybody else in the league since he got back from injury. They're just making sure he doesn't get hit. They snap the ball and he's unloading it as soon as he gets it. Leads to a lot of Jonnu Smith, leads to the most passes in the league at or behind the line of scrimmage. The thing with Tua in this game is Green Bay's defense has been really good when they pressure the quarterback, really terrible when they don't. So if they're not going to be able to pressure Tua because he's getting rid of the ball so quick, this may end up actually being the perfect type of matchup for that short passing game. And Tyreek may be able to break that 60-yarder even on a screen pass as opposed to the deep play. So I like taking shots on the Miami offense today, especially considering how low owned Tua Tagovailoa is on this slate. Let's start going position by position here. We don't have to go fully in depth, but we can highlight our favorite plays, maybe some of our sneaky ones, and then we'll take some QQs. We'll get out of here, enjoy some football and some Thanksgiving food. At the quarterback position, I can't help but notice that although Caleb Williams projects it with the highest optimal rate, he also is projecting as the most over-owned quarterback on the slate. And so I'm going to be completely ignoring him for tournaments outside of a few full stacks that I hand built. But in 150 lineups, I'm going without Caleb today. I love Cooper Rush. I love Drew Lock. I love Tua Tagovailoa. Those are my three favorites for tournaments. The one chalky guy I'm not fading is Jordan Love, just because I do think he's got a lot of upside. And what I usually don't like about Love is, who do I stack with him? But without Dobbs, that gets a little bit easier to decipher. Will, position by quarterbacks here, who is your priority for single entry, and who would you want to make sure you're overweight, underweight on for tournaments?
Man, I wanted my priority to be Jared Goff. I feel like my priority is going to end up being Cooper Rush, and I think he's one of these cheap quarterbacks. I think wins the Millie because you need the salary relief, in my opinion, to get to the bigger spin. So I think the value's in the skill position guys, and so I don't think it's unobvious, but I'm gonna side with Cooper Rush in terms of my single entry team, I think, and obviously I'm gonna pair that up with CD, but that's the way I'm going. To keep in mind, I've got the lock button on Amon-Ra, so there you have it. Like that's kind of how I'm building my single entry stuff.
It's my hot take of the day. Cooper Rush outscores Caleb Williams. Tim, how about you? Who are you prioritizing at QB?
Yeah, so I definitely am playing Caleb Williams in cash games. I don't know what I'm going to do in single entry quite yet. It's either going to be Caleb, Cooper Rush, I think, or Jordan Love. I do have some interest in Jordan Love at 6,300. Wondering what happens with Jared Goff ownership, just because they do have the highest total on the entire slate. So kind of curious what happens with his ownership, because I know everyone's going towards the running backs, which might lead to lower ownership on Goff. But yeah, I'm probably just going to go. I think I'm really just debating Caleb and Jordan Love right now. It's pretty close. Yeah. And then I think for running back, Josh Jacobs is my favorite play personally at 7K. Rico Daddle's your obvious like your cash game running back. Of the two Detroit running backs, I prefer Jahmyr Gibbs. He's currently in my single entry lineup, and then I think you can obviously you can play Tracy, you can play A-Chain, and then I do like TJ's call on Roschon Johnson at 4,500 in a large field setting.
Yeah, it feels gross, but in the Millie Maker, I got a couple Roschon lineups. I got a couple Singletary lineups. Got a couple Raheem Mostert lineups. After Jalen Wright fumbled last game, didn't look so great. Maybe Mostert reclaims that role as the number 2 back, picks up a few more snaps. probably won't happen, but trying to win $1 million if he's going to be less than 1% owned, I'm definitely going to take that shot. Will, how about you? What are you doing at running back, specifically with the 50+% owned Rico Dowdle?
I'm trying to get under the field, and I'm not building well today in terms of my 150. It's just not coming together for me. Like, it's not even giving me all the lineups I want. But in terms of Rico, I'm trying to get under the field. Love Rico. I mean, I think he's a fine play. I personally am going to side with Tracy over him and hope that this thing flips back around for Tracy's volume, and that, last week was just a blip, TJ, and he comes back out on fire. We've seen some nice games from him, and we've seen Dallas, really get gashed on the ground. And so I'm hoping that Singletary doesn't eat into that.
I am kind of hoping he does, because I'm going to be underweight on both of those running backs, Dowdle and Tracy, today. Take me to wide receiver, Chief.
Yeah, wide receiver. So my favorite guys are Amon-Ra St. Brown. Behind him is CeeDee Lamb. Those are the two obvious plays. I think in terms of, ways to get different, obviously people they don't necessarily want to play Jameson Williams over some of these other guys. Like, his ownership is really low compared to a lot of other guys. So I think he's a guy for me in terms of taking a massive stand. I mean, man, 60-yard touchdowns are his thing. 40-yard touchdowns are his thing. He's the guy that can put up 20 fantasy points on 2 catches. So for me, Jameson Williams is the guy I'm trying to get overweight on the most.
All right, I like it. Tim, how about you? What are you doing here at receiver, where I was going to be underweight on Amon-Ra, but he's projecting with a really high optimal rate compared to his ownership percentage?
Yeah, so my favorite's still CD, but I mean, I do like to see that high opto rate, that huge positive leverage on Amon-Ra. So that does make me kind of second guess myself. But I think I'm going to be sticking with the rushing attack for Detroit, and then I'm going to go CeeDee Lamb as my most expensive wide receiver. Don't mind having like a Neighbors run back if you're doing like a game stack of this game. I know they're gonna be trying to get Neighbors the ball here, and 7,100 is really too cheap. So I think that that's obviously really, really strong plays. On the cheaper end, Keenan Allen, he's gonna be very, very popular at 5,100. I do like a Dunze at 5K, and I do think he makes for like an interesting pivot off of Keenan Allen. He should be right around like half the ownership of Keenan. So I think he's a strong GPP play. Watson, I don't like him for cash games, but I think he's strong for GPPs. Jaden Reed at 5,700, I think he's a really strong play as well. I think anyone lower than that would be Wicks for me, or Tolbert at 3,800. I think anyone under Tolbert, I think is an X out.
I think I'm going to be like just heavily prioritizing these Green Bay guys. Jaden Reed going under owned, love that. Watson, Dontavian Wicks, these guys are all my favorites on the slate. And then I do like taking shots on some cheapies. Tim Patrick, Bo Melton, Kevontae Turpin, Malik Heath, totally good in a 150 max setting. Trying some of these guys as well. Tight end position. We got a couple questions about tight ends on DraftKings right now. Let's hit it. Jonnu Smith projects for the highest optimal rate. I do think he's the best tight end play on the slate. He and Kraft are going to be the two priorities for me. I think Kraft is going nice and low owned considering we're without Dobbs. He's running the most routes on the team. He's playing the most snaps on the team in that offense. So I think Tucker Kraft is still very interesting, even though he hasn't been getting many targets lately. He could absorb a few of those targets missing from Romeo Dobbs. And then I've been loving playing Luke Schoonmaker. But as bad as the Giants defense is, they're weirdly good against tight ends. And so I'm going to be overweight on Schoonmaker, but I'm not quite as bullish on him as I have been in previous weeks. Theo Johnson, I think, is a nice cheapie if you need to use it as well. I got maybe 5 Brevin Spanford lineups and 150. Will, how about you? Who are you prioritizing at tight end?
Yeah, Jonnu Smith. Do like Schoonmaker. So my pool, I've got Smith, Laporta, Kraft, Komet, Schoolmaker, and Theo Johnson. So I've got them all. Jonnu Smith is obviously my highest owned tight end. I've got him around. Let me check. Let me check that. I want to make sure I'm giving you guys the right numbers here. Yeah, I'm slightly above the field on Jonnu. I've got 40% in my build so far.
All right, Tim, how about you? I'm underweight on Laporta and Komet, but I like me some Jonnu, Kraft, and Theo. How about you?
Yeah, I currently have Jonnu in cash games and in my single entry team. So Jonnu is by far my favorite tight end play. Theo Johnson is the preferred punt if you're looking to punt the position. 2,900, I think that's fine. And then in the mid range, I think I like Komet more than Kraft, but it's super close between those two. I'm so high on CD Lamb that I'm staying away from Schoonmaker, but I completely understand if people want to go there, part of like a rush double stack or something like that.
Yeah, that's mostly when I'm getting to Schoonmaker as well. We got about 23 minutes left to lock. We'll get out of here a little bit before, give you guys some chance to build some lineups. We're not expecting any late breaking news, so not necessarily necessary to kind of hold it right till then, but we'll stay until all of the questions are answered. So get your questions into the RotoGrinders live stream Discord chat. It's free to join, and get them into the YouTube chat as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, smash that like button. We got a lot of people watching here across all the sites on Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We got free content for you. Make sure you're helping us out and smashing that like button. Going to the Discord first, Will. FanDuel GPP, favorite low-owned QB wide receiver stack, and also your favorite low-owned tight end.
Favorite low-owned QB wide receiver stack will probably be Locke to Neighbors. Favorite, you said favorite tight end?
Low-owned tight end.
Obviously, Schoonmaker isn't picking up much ownership for this slate. I think it would be him.
Yeah, and I think that would give my answer to be Cooper Rush, CeeDee Lamb, and Luke Schoonmaker as my favorite low-owned stack as a double stack.
You know what? You know who would probably be my favorite the more I think about it? Give me Cole Kmet in this Lions game where they got to play from behind. Give me Cole Kmet.
What about kickers? Any love for the kickers? Somebody asking in YouTube. So I guess maybe if they're playing showdown today, yeah, I think kickers are viable in all three of the games from a showdown perspective. Nothing wrong with getting to those guys at all. DK GPPs, Tim, Gibbs and they already have Gibbs. So Montgomery or Jacobs?
They're both fantastic. I think going double running back from Detroit will probably be lower owned, and I really don't hate it. So I guess if that's a large field GPP, I'd go double Detroit running backs.
All right, switching over to the YouTube chat here. Will, I love this one. What do you think about a Jacobs, Achane, and Jonnu Smith mini stack?
Jacobs, Achane, Jonnu Smith. Yeah, I don't hate that at all. I will say this: I ended up going to Dowdle in my single entry team. I had to do it to make the Neighbors receiver pairing work. So just so you guys know, I didn't necessarily want to do that, but it's just going to make more sense. All right. Sorry. Continue.
No worries at all. Somebody asking about the FanDuel optimal rates for QBs. For some reason, the SimLabs optimal rates aren't coming up right now, but I can tell you that the most optimal on FanDuel is Jordan Love, followed by Caleb Williams, followed by I actually am not sure if it's Rush or Goff after that, but that would be third. It goes Love 1 and Caleb Williams 2 over there, if I'm not mistaken. Tua or Love today, Tim?
I don't know. I think it's Love.
It probably depends on the rest of your team, but I just kind of straight up agree with that there. FanDuel cash, Tim, keeping it with you, Goff and Montgomery or Caleb Williams and Gibbs?
I'd go Williams, Gibbs, and cash.
Are we confident with Locke? Tommy Cutlets could start. What's our confidence rates there? I am not confident about Locke. Now, I do think he starts. Tommy DeVito didn't travel with the team. He'd have to travel there this morning after getting the full okay for being cleared and then fly all the way to the game. So I don't think he's going to make his start. But if he does, that is something you can kind of prep to be ready for. I'll check the price differences between DeVito and Locke to see if that's a swap we can just make. But I'm not confident in how Locke performs today, but I think it's a lot better than what his projected ownership is. I think he's going to be really low owned. And so with that being the case, that makes me want to get some Locke today. He's Ian Rappaport just tweeted Kid. I can't say the name, but Kid is telling us he's at the stadium already. Rappaport just tweeted it out. So we got a tweet 4 minutes ago. Tommy DeVito is not expected to play Thursday. Drew Lock is expected to start. With that, I'm pretty confident in the fact that Lock starts. I'm not confident in his performance, but I think he is a phenomenal tournament play considering how low owned he is. DK cashed him. Wicks in the Lions or Watson in the Cowboys?
I don't really like Watson for cash, so I guess I'd go Wicks.
All right. GPP, Will, thoughts on Montgomery and Amon-Ra St. Brown's injuries? Do you think they're going to get full run, and do you think Tim Patrick is in play?
Yeah, I think they're getting full run. I think Tim Patrick is deep tournament. Like that's a 150 build for me. That's what I'd be doing there.
Has there been any talk about Tracy's recent fumble issues? Yeah, we have. We did talk about that with Tracy, and I think he'd be a lot higher owned if it weren't for those fumbles. But because of those fumbles, I do have some Devin Singletary shares just in case. Tracy's probably the player I'm most scared of being underweight on because I do think that ceiling is really high against a weak Dallas rush defense, which has been better recently, by the way. But I am underweight on Tracy because of those fumble issues, and I'm even taking a couple shots on Devin Singletary. GPPs, Will, assuming this is with a lock, would you want Wandale or Slayton?
Wandale.
Favorite QB and corresponding stacks in tournaments? For me, it is the Cooper Rush, CeeDee Lamb stack. How about you, Tim?
I think in large field, you take a shot on a couple Tua doubles, and then maybe smaller field GPPs. I don't mind pivoting off of Caleb and maybe doing like a Goff.
MC Kidlat says it's not Wicks, it's Bo Melton time. Yeah, I do have some Bo Melton in the Millie Maker today. I wouldn't be mad if that happens. But Ho Jenkins wants to know thoughts on a dual tight end build on DraftKings. That's not for me today. I think you can do it because like Jonnu Kraft, Komet, there are good options, but the running backs are too good on this slate for me to not play 3 running backs in every lineup. What do you think, Tim?
The question was to get to 2 tight end builds on DK.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I actually got in Sims, I got the fewest tight ends in flex. So I got the most at wide receiver and running back right in the middle. So Sims prefers having a wide receiver in flex and tight ends the least.
Doesn't say the site or the format, Will, but who do you like better straight up, Gibbs or St. Brown for fantasy points?
St. Brown.
All right. Favorite low-owned FanDuel tournament play, Tim?
Favorite low-owned FanDuel tournament play?
Yeah.
I got to check out projected ownership real quick here.
Well, he does that. Will, DK GPP high dollar, Goff, Wicks, Dowdle, or Rush, Lamb, Laporta?
Rush, Lamb, Laporta.
I'd go Wicks on FanDuel. He's only shown up with 14% projected ownership, which is not a lot on a 3-game slate.
Does 33.5 pass attempts for Caleb Williams sound like too much? I did take the over. I don't think that. He's been throwing the ball an absolute ton lately, and they're likely going to be playing from behind, so I think that's fine. I don't have the numbers up in front of me, but I think that's fine. Joe wants to know, Tim, on FanDuel Flex, Achane or CD?
I'd go 18.
Tom says anybody who likes Melton is a dummy. It's going to be Heath. Yeah, well, I'm playing a little bit of Heath too in the Millie Maker. It's they're 3K and they're super low owned, so I'll play a little bit of each of these guys. Heath scored the touchdown last week, so I'm going to be playing a little bit of each of them. I don't think they're going to get the targets or the snaps, at least not a lot of them, but both of them deep threats. Kyop says, I need help like hell. Which 4 running back should I start? Achane, McCaffrey, Swift, Brian Robinson Jr., Tyrone Tracy, Pacheco. All right. Achane, absolutely. McCaffrey, absolutely. So that gives you 2 of the spots down. So you're choosing 2 between Brian Robinson Jr., Swift, Tracy, and Pacheco. I would start Tracy. And then ideally Brian Robinson Jr., if he happens not to play for some reason, you pivot to Pacheco. But I would ignore Swift, plug in Tracy, and then have Brian Robinson Jr. for your last spot. Pacheco is your backup. FanDuel single entry. Gibbs and Odunze, Will, or Montgomery and Keenan Allen?
Montgomery, Keenan Allen for me.
JMO or D-Hop, Tim, assuming they're playing, it's either season long or they're playing Thursday, Friday slate.
I'd probably go JMO.
Apparently I phrased what Tom meant wrong, so apologize, Tom. He wasn't calling everybody dummies, but that's so apologies for misquoting you. Cheapest viable flex on FanDuel, Will and Tim. Who would be your favorite super cheap option as a viable flex on FanDuel today? I'm looking down low and like viable, I think, is different than who I would like. I'd say the cheapest viable one would maybe be Heath, Wright, Melton, Turpin, Johnson, that range. But my favorite cheap one would be Wicks at 5,400. What about you, Tim?
Yeah, like maybe Theo Johnson at 49. But you're not going to be playing him at flex. So
you guys consider JMO cheap or no? Because he's 5,700.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that as a cheap flex, but he's asking like, what's the cheapest viable flex?
Probably Tim Patrick.
5,100. Yeah, I think like Mostert, Theo, Turpin, Melton, Heath, guys you could try if you're playing a lot of lineups, but not somebody I'd be comfortable in a single entry or anything like that. Jacobs and Packers D or Montgomery and Lions D, Will?
One more time.
Jacobs and Packers D
or Montgomery and Lions?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Give me Montgomery and Lions because I think Montgomery is the under-owned piece of that whole thing.
DK, Slayton versus Wandale. We covered that one. Waddle or Keenan Allen, large field DK tourney, Tim?
I know he's going to be chalkier. I still like Keenan.
Wicks or Laporta in a DK GPP flex. That would be Wicks for that one. Pumpkin pie or apple pie, Will?
Apple for me.
Tim, how about you?
Apple.
All right. Dean wants us to power rank our Thanksgiving foods. We don't got a lot of time. I want to give you guys a couple answers. Shut up, Dean. He says season-long question. Pick 3 receivers of Tyreek, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, A.J. Brown, and Mike Evans. Thank you. You don't have all those guys in season-long, Dean?
I've seen Dean's season-long team, and it's really bad.
Good.
It's really bad, so he does not have those guys.
He did want us to power rank our favorite Thanksgiving foods, though, so maybe give me your top 3, Tim and Will. Tim, I'll throw it to you first. Top 3.
Sweet potato pie, stuffing and gravy, and I can't even think of another one right after. I mean, I have to go apple pie for dessert.
Will, top 3?
Dressing, fried turkey, apple pie.
I like it. I think that's it for our questions here. We seem to have hit everything. Luke Cage in the Discord chat says favorite FanDuel tourney quarterback stack. For me, it's Rush to Lamb. Tim, favorite QB wide receiver stack.
Yeah, Rush the Lamb's really strong. And then I think right now I have a Caleb double with like 2 Detroit run backs.
Will, favorite QB wide receiver stack on FanDuel?
I think I'm going. So Monroe's my favorite guy, but I think in terms of quarterback, give me Lot Neighbors, CeeDee Lamb on the other side as the run back.
All right, that'll do it for the questions. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Make sure you're smashing that like button. We hope you get lots of food and lots of winnings today in your DFS lineups as well. We will be back tomorrow for our full slate of NBA games, but there's also a Black Friday NFL game tomorrow. So Tim and I will be back for the pre-lock show before that NFL game tomorrow as well. So make sure you tune in. And then we have our regular content through the weekend. One last question before we get out of here. Jaden Reed and Dowdle or Lamb and Laporta for high dollar, Tim?
High dollar, I think I would go Reed Dowdle.
Yeah, I think I'm on the same page.
Lamb's a terrifying fade though in high dollar. I expect he's going to be really highly owned. I just don't like Laporta in high dollar.
Yeah, I think that's the same page that I'm on there. That'll do it. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Good luck in all your contests. On behalf of myself, Will, Tim, smash that like button on your way out. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Peace.